The King's Avatar, Chapter 1623 A Serious Mistake. Audio source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1623, A Serious Mistake. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. 900. Impossible. Sun Zheping blurted out. He might not know that much about playing piano, but he had fought against Yi Xiu in game before. Yi Xiu's hand speed was indeed very fast, and right now, the three on Samsara had forced him to an average hand speed of 500. 900. What did that mean? It was a hand speed nearly twice as fast as his current one, and that wasn't a peak, but an average over 48 seconds. It's true though, Lu Guaning said. He could understand Sun Zheping's reaction. They had the same reaction as him when they saw it. In the beginning, they just felt like Yi Xiu was playing really fast. They had no concept of the exact numbers up until Lu Guaning calculated it. The number had nearly shattered their eyes. 900. Lu Guaning and the others might not be as experienced as Sun Zheping, but they could imagine how terrifying such a hand speed was. Later, they looked through a bunch of Yi Xiu's matches, but they never saw him come close to such a high hand speed in any of them. Playing piano was different from playing Glory. The left and right hand did completely different things for one. The five of them could only explain it with this reasoning, but they truly had a hard time convincing themselves. After all, 900 was a terrifying number. Pro players averaged around 300. When a more complicated or chaotic event happened in the team competition, their hand speed might go up. For example, Yi Xiu was playing 1v3 against Samsara and had been forced to a hand speed of 500. Even so, 500 was a huge difference from 900. Maybe it was because piano and Glory were different that Yi Xiu couldn't reach a hand speed of 900 in Glory. But there were plenty of numbers lower than 900. Even if you subtracted 200 or 300, it was still a hand speed of 600 or 700. 500 shouldn't be his limit, right? That was their opinion at least. After Sun Zheping accepted that Yi Xiu had reached an APM of 900 when playing piano, his view was no different from theirs. That guy's still holding back. Sun Zheping thought about it for a moment, but immediately shook his head. This was the finals. Playing 120% wouldn't even feel like it was enough. Hold back? What a joke. Maybe it is because you can't actually get to an APM of 900 in Glory. Sun Zheping couldn't think of any other reasoning, but even if was using this reasoning to convince himself, from this moment on, he began to look forward to what might happen next. Who cares if there's a difference between piano and Glory? From this moment on, to Sun Zheping, Yi Xiu's highest average hand speed was 900. How terrifying. In that case, did his true maximum break past 1000? Sun Zheping was thinking of it from a Glory perspective. He didn't know that on that day, when Yi Xiu had played piano, he had just been playing it for the sake of playing fast. There were no changes in rhythm like there were in Glory. So what is the answer? Hurry up and let us see it. While the other pro players felt like Yi Xiu couldn't hang on for much longer, Sun Zheping and the five on Heavenly Swords had different thoughts. While their conversation had gone on, Yi Xiu's situation worsened. Under the siege from Samsara, Lord Grimm was forced into a corner, an actual corner in the trash room. There was no place for him to hide any longer. Victory is in sight. The Samsara fans had started getting excited. Even though they had lost a player first, if they could take down Lord Grimm, the trade would be worth it. Similar to how Su Mucheng and Fang Rui had dispatched Du Ming without taking much damage, it would be the same for the three on Samsara. They hadn't taken much damage in their fight against Yi Xiu's Lord Grimm. Now, it just depended on how troublesome Yi Xu's final struggle would be. Careful, Jiang Botao warned in Samsara's chat. They had to keep cautious to not give Yi Xu any chance to deal damage to them. They didn't immediately attack. Instead, they waited until every one of them was in the perfect position, so there wouldn't be any openings when they started their attack. "It's over," Sun Xiang declared. He had always longed to beat Yi Xu. He wanted to surpass him. Unfortunately, they were currently in a 3v1 situation. It probably wouldn't be considered a win in his eyes, but it wasn't important. It was true that Sun Xiang wanted to surpass Yi Xu, but he wouldn't bicker too hard over it. In the end, his ultimate priority was to win the match. If they didn't win, even if he beat Yi Xu on his own, it wouldn't have any meaning. Dragon breaks the ranks. One autumn leaf charged forward with the powerful momentum of a battle mage to seal off Yi Xu's final hopes. Surpassing you will have to wait. Today, the most important thing is to win this match. Sun Xiang's one autumn leaf charged forward, carrying this conviction. Suddenly, his screen turned dark. What's going on? Sun Xiang nearly leapt out of his seat. Had his computer malfunctioned? That was his first thought, but he soon discovered that it wasn't that his computer had crashed. It was because there was an indicator showing on the screen that his character couldn't see. Blind. Where did it come from? He had been carefully observing each and every movement from Lord Grimm. When had he used a skill that inflicted blind? Unable to see his opponent, Sun Xiang couldn't control his dragon breaks the ranks. He heard a gunshot. Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer had started firing. However, those bullets didn't seem to be going towards where he was going. Lord Grimm had already run over there. Sun Xiang was utterly confused. The crowd had exploded too. Through their spectator view, when one autumn leaf charged forward, a hazy pitch-black light quietly descended. The area covered by the dark light was surrounded by faint magical symbols in a giant circle. Sun Xiang's one autumn leaf had entered this zone. Jiang Botao's empty waves was at the edge of it too. As a result, their screens instantly turned black. The two of them had been blinded. This is Ghost Blade's dark boundary. But with how carefully they had been watching over Yi Xu, there was no way they wouldn't notice him casting a Ghost Blade boundary, let alone letting him finish casting it. What's going on? Most of the crowd was just as confused, up until Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer started firing, not towards Lord Grimm, but towards the corner of the trash pile. When he moved laterally to get a better view, the confusion was cleared up. 1-inch ash. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash had appeared here. The crowd went wild. Practically no one had noticed. On one side was the battle between Fang Rui, Su Mucheng, Du Ming, and Lu Boyuan. On the other side was Yi Xu, Zhou Zekai, Jiang Botao, and Sun Xiang. It was already difficult enough deciding which of the two battles they should watch. How could they bother paying attention to someone who wasn't a part of either battle? When did Qiao Yifan get there? How did he get there without anyone noticing him? Many of the viewers blanked. Their last impression of 1-inch ash was him splitting up with Fang Rui and Su Mucheng to search for the two on Samsara. After that, he had been forgotten. And now, his sudden appearance had rescued Yi Xu from what had seemed to be certain death. The three on Samsara had made a mistake. Their highly focused attention had turned into their weakness. They had only been following Yi Xu's every move. A beautiful stall. Wang Jiexi sighed. His explosive 510 hand speed wasn't just to hold on against the combined assault from Samsara. He had responded back strongly to capture the complete attention of the three from Samsara, so they would make this mistake. Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash came to the trash room and got into this position without any of the players on Samsara noticing. This was a mistake, but no one could blame Samsara for it. The viewers, who could see everything if they chose to, had been absorbed by the intense fighting. They hadn't noticed Qiao Yifan either. How could they expect the three on Samsara to, when they themselves couldn't? Sun Xiang and Jiang Botao had been blinded. For a moment, they didn't know what had happened. With the two of them blinded, Yi Zhu was able to easily make his way past him. As for Zhou Zekai, who hadn't been affected by the dark boundary, he could only shift his attention to 1-inch ash. The control capabilities of a phantom demon were too powerful. Right now, it was just a dark boundary. If Qiao Yifan was left alone to do as he pleased, an ice boundary, ash boundary, silence, and so on would come one after the other. If that happened, they would be the ones in trouble. Qiao Yifan. He had once been a nobody in Tiny Herb, and now, in the finals, he was the one who Glory's number one, Zhou Zekai, was personally taking care of. The people, who had taken note of Qiao Yifan's arduous path to his current state, felt deeply moved. The spectating pro players couldn't help but glance at Tiny Herb for their reactions. Qiao Yifan had been given up on by Tiny Herb, and now he had reached the finals AEAD of them. What were the Tiny Herb players thinking right now? You can do it, Yifan. Gao Yingji didn't say anything, but he was quietly cheering for his best friend. Many of the pro players had also overlooked Qiao Yifan due to the two separate battles taking place, but Gao Yingji wasn't one of them. No matter what else was going on in the match, he would always be mindful of Qiao Yifan. When Fang Rui sent the message asking for help, Su Mucheng and Qiao Yifan had both turned around. He had originally thought that Qiao Yifan would be heading towards Fang Rui to help him, but to his surprise, Qiao Yifan had gone towards the trash room. A brilliant decision. What outstanding situational awareness! Gao Yingji heard the praise pouring out from his seniors beside him. He was happy for Qiao Yifan, and proud. During their time together in Tiny Herb, the two of them were often compared to each other. Gao Yingji shined with his fame as a prodigy. On the other hand, Qiao Yifan was completely overshadowed by him. From the start, it seemed like Qiao Yifan would never reach the same heights as Gao Yingji. But now, Qiao Yifan had gone AEAD to the finals before him, and he had made an outstanding play on stage. Now, I'm the one chasing after you. I hope that we'll be able to meet in the finals someday, Gao Yingji thought to himself. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1624. No Longer Alone. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1624. No Longer Alone. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. His best friend was proud of him, but what about Qiao Yifan himself? He was calm. He was considered a major threat by Glory's number one. Perhaps this might have had him shaking in excitement back when he was just a no-name player in Tiny Herb, but now it wouldn't. Because this was the battlefield, and there was no such thing as being of a higher or lower standing here, only victory and defeat. On the battlefield, you should be focused on one thing: how to claim victory. This was something he had learned from Glory's number one, the other Glory's number one. 1-inch ash leaped back, dodging the first wave of Cloud Piercer's bullets. Zhou Zekai had Cloud Piercer continue his advance, but that was when he suddenly realized something. They had neglected to consider Qiao Yifan, but was Qiao Yifan the only one they had missed? Wasn't there another member of Happy that had yet to appear? Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash was here, so what about the other one? Cloudpiercer suddenly jumped up, turning his body around in the air, continuing his attack as he scanned the area. Whoosh! A pure white flame lit up the area he just jumped away from. Sacred fire, as expected. As he spun, he searched for the quickly fading glimmer of holy light that marked the use of sacred fire. Though it was weak, it stood out in this dim lighting of the warehouse. It wasn't just Qiao Yivan who had come, but also Happy's healer, Unwenyi, and his cleric, Little Cold Hands. 1v3. That was just now. It was now a 3v3, and Happy had a healer. However, whether Qiao Yivan or Unwenyi, their reputation couldn't compare to any of the three members of Samsara. In terms of strength, as well, they were at a disadvantage. Even if they had a healer, this wasn't necessarily an advantage. Still, compared to before, this was already a massive difference, especially with how Happy's two had suddenly launched their assault when Yizhu most needed it, completely destroying Samsara's rhythm. Jiang Botao and Sun Xiang had lost their camera sight, having been blinded, but that didn't mean that the team chat would disappear as well. They soon got the gist of the current situation from Josekai in the team chat. No matter what, leaving the dark boundary was their current top priority, but even for pro players, being blinded made it nigh impossible to accurately orient themselves. Sun Xiang's one autumn leaf had just finished a dragon breaks the ranks, which brought him near to the edge of the dark boundary. Unfortunately, it also brought to him to the trash room wall and he couldn't move forward anymore, not even a step. This direction wouldn't provide an out to the dark boundary. Luckily, Sun Xiang had a vague impression of the area, so he had one autumn leaf turn. Even without being able to see anything, one autumn leaf still managed a perfect 180-degree turn. These seemingly insignificant details were a great indicator of a player's skill. Those who understood sighed in admiration, yet then Lord Grimm flicked his arm and sent a grenade one autumn leaf's way. Sun Xiang couldn't see, so he had no idea that Yizhu was taking advantage of his blindness. The watching Samsara members wanted nothing more than to charge up there and warn him, but then there was a bang and a rumbling explosion. Josekai had gotten Cloudpiercer to destroy the grenade. In the end, not only did the grenade not hit one autumn leaf, the explosion it made even acted like a guide for Sun Xiang. Although relying on sound meant that he wasn't as precise as he would have liked, one autumn leaf did head in Lord Grimm's direction. Evil annihilation levered in front of him. Even blinded, he never lost his offensive pose. Boom. But immediately afterwards, one autumn leaf was consumed by light and fire. Yizhu had opened fire with the Myriad Manifestations umbrella again. Anti-tank missiles used the boom of the grenade as cover to fly at one autumn leaf. The two weren't that far away, so even if Josekai wanted to warn him in the team chat, it would be too late. One autumn leaf still ended up hit and staggered back several steps from the explosion. While blinded, it was already impressive that he could keep his balance, but his sense of direction was completely shot. Josekai wanted to send messages to guide him, but he didn't have a chance. His split inattention had Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash safely finishing the cast of a boundary. Then when he tried to go and help, 1-inch ash's phantom ghost's power fell and a chill instantly spread into a boundary. He had summoned an ice soul, ice boundary. Crack crack crack. The sound of ice crystals breaking crawled up Jiang Botao's empty waves, freezing him solid. Originally, Jiang Botao was in a better situation than Sun Xiang. At the very least, he didn't get blocked by a wall. After being blinded, he had empty waves back up rapidly. With just a few more leaps until the edge of the boundary, he was hit with 1-inch ash's ice boundary and just happened to get frozen, too, stopping him within the dark boundary. Blinded and immobilized, Jiang Botao had basically been taken out of the game for now. Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer turned to attack 1-inch Ash again, but this time Yi Shu's Lord Grim leaped at that heap of trash, drawing his sword in mid-air and striking. Cloud Piercer bent backwards to dodge the sword light, a grenade already heading for the leaping Lord Grim. But Yi Shu didn't have Lord Grim dodge. With a flash of light, he sheathed his sword, and the Myriad Manifestations umbrella became Tomfas. Lord Grim's body trembled. Boom. The explosion enveloped Lord Grim, but was unable to stop his leap. Reinforced iron bones. Yi Shu had activated this skill for Lord Grim and brute forced his way through. As for the damage, he didn't care, because he was no longer fighting solo. And when Yi's little cold hands darted forward and sent Lord Grim a holy cure without any hesitation. Pure white light enveloped Lord Grim before blooming outwards. This was the visual effect of a critical heal, even managing to overpower the visual effect of the explosion for a moment. 24%. This instant cast. High healing holy cure with a lengthy cooldown of 5 minutes had crit and restored Lord Grim's health by 24% instantly, making Samsara's 3's efforts seem insignificant. They had struggled with Lord Grim for so long, only managing to take out 48% of his health. Now half of that had been annihilated by a single holy cure from Anwenyi's little cold hands. The Samsara fans could practically feel their hearts breaking. With Yi Shu's Lord Grim advancing forcefully, Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer had no choice but to retreat. He had an important task right now, protect Jiang Botao and Sun Xiang's characters the best he could. He couldn't let them fall completely into 1-inch Ash's boundaries. 1-inch Ash was casting again. Zhou Zekai could see that. Without caring about his own situation, Cloud Pierce's gun aimed towards 1-inch Ash. Unexpectedly, Lord Grim's form darted forth in front of him, using his body to block his attack, courageous and fearless. Zhou Zekai had no time for playing games with him. Cloud Piercer rolled to the side, once again putting 1-inch Ash into the line of fire. Bang! The gunshot rang out, but Zhou Zekai then saw the bullet bounce. Lord Grim's Myriad Manifestations umbrella had stretched open, knocking the bullet away. However, Cloud Piercer had 2 guns. His right gun might have been sealed, but what about the left? The mouth of his left gun was outside of Myriad Manifestations umbrella's block, but he couldn't see. Bang! The gun went off without being able to aim properly. Zhou Zekai could only wager a guess. Unfortunately, this bullet didn't hit, heading somewhere at least 3 body units away from 1-inch Ash. Whirlwind kick. WushOurWorldAudio.com. Zhou Zekai ignored the result of that shot and quickly had Cloud Piercer kick out. Lord Grim had already changed the Myriad Manifestations umbrella into its shield form, so the class was switched to Priest as well. Reinforced Iron Bones was a fighter skill, so it lost its effect under the Priest class. In that moment, Zhou Zekai still had such a clear judgment. He didn't panic at all due to the disadvantageous situation. This kick still ended up blocked by Lord Grim's Myriad Manifestations umbrella, but then Cloud Piercer's left-hand gun's Shattered Frost erupted with gunfire. Whirlwind kick had 2 goals. One was to try and swept Lord Grim to the side, the other was that the downwards leaning movement gave him a small window to strike. Just one glance and it was enough for Zhou Zekai to lock onto his target. Whirlwind kick and his view of 1-inch Ash were quickly blocked by the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, but in that moment, he had locked 1-inch Ash's position into his mind. Cloud Piercer's left hand was extremely steady. Even though Zhou Zekai couldn't see, he knew that his gun was aimed at 1-inch Ash. Bang! a gunshot, and then the bullet flew, just brushing past the myriad manifestation's umbrella. This was just a normal attack, but it was enough to interrupt any casting. If the caster moved or was hit, the casting would be interrupted. There was enough time. From the phantom ghost's power coming off of 1-inch Ash's blade, Joe Zekai could tell you he was summoning a silence boundary. Silence boundary sealed the skills of the characters that were caught within. With such a disgusting effect, it was obviously counted as a high-level skill, and thus the cast time was longer. However, the flashes of light that rose soon after told Joe Zekai he had still failed. His bullet hadn't hit. Silence boundary was similar to dark boundary, but the visual effects were more intense, making it murky inside the boundary. It couldn't blind people, but this murkiness made things hard to see. Dark boundary, ice boundary, silence boundary, 3 overlapping boundaries. They couldn't see, couldn't move, and now they couldn't even use any skills, only normal attacks. However, Joe Zekai couldn't help them. Yishu didn't want him interrupting 1-inch Ash just now, which was why he was on the defensive, getting in the way all the time. Now, with silence boundary out, the myriad manifestation's umbrella was immediately thrust forward at his face. Shield attack. This skill had a dizzy effect, so even if it didn't deal damage, it was a bad idea to take it. Cloud Piercer hurriedly rolled to the side and glanced towards 1-inch Ash, seeing Little Cold Hands standing guard there. It seemed that Little Cold Hands had taken the bullet for 1-inch Ash just now. 1-inch Ash began to cast a 4th ghost boundary. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1625. Not perfect, but the best. Audio source, wusharworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1625, not perfect, but the best. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Ghost boundaries wouldn't last forever. A smart phantom demon would plan out when and where to place down the ghost boundaries to maintain an uninterrupted flow of crowd control on the battlefield. But right now, Qiao Yifan's 1-inch Ash was placing down ghost boundaries one after the other. Dark boundary, ice boundary, silence boundary. All of these were ghost boundaries with powerful crowd control. Usually, these boundaries would be linked together such that the opponent would always be under the effects of one of them. However, Qiao Yifan had set all 3 down on top of each other to completely seal off Sun Xiang and Jiang Botao. 1-inch Ash was even in the midst of casting a 4th ghost boundary. This sort of setup was often only seen during critical moments, but today, because of 1-inch Ash's abrupt arrival, the dark boundary had caught Samsara completely off guard. Sun Xiang and Jiang Botao were robbed of their sight temporarily as a result. His dark boundary was extremely effective. Adding an ice boundary and a silence boundary on top of it didn't seem to be necessary. Was Qiao Yifan a bit too hasty? Seeing that a 4th ghost boundary was about to be placed down, Pan Lin couldn't help but ask. It was a dangerous situation. With this being his first time on the grand stage, it's hard not to be a bit nervous. Li Yibo was quite understanding. But he was also implying that he agreed with Pan Lin's viewpoint. Li Xuan, what do you think? Quote, before Qiao Yifan even finished setting down the 3 ghost boundaries on top of each other, the pro players were already discussing the issue. In the end, everyone pushed the question onto Li Xuan, who was considered the #1 phantom demon. If it were me, just 1 dark boundary would be more than enough. Li Xuan spoke his thoughts. At first, it sounded pretty much the same as Pan Lin's and Li Yibo's viewpoint, disagreeing with Qiao Yifan's excessiveness. However, the other pro players could hear the difference. Because he said, if it were me. Not long after finishing the sentence, Li Xuan looked to be a bit hesitant. After saying, For a bit, he added, and Shinji. And Shinji? Shinji was, of course, referring to Zhang Shinji. Why'd he mention him? The pro players quickly caught on. Li Xuan meant switching and Wenyi with Zhang Shinji. In other words, if it were Yi Zhu and him, and Shinji too, he would be confident that just one dark boundary would be enough. TCH. Everyone clicked their tongues in disdain at Li Xuan. Yi Zhu, Li Xuan, and Zhang Shinji. That was a lineup even grander than Sun Xiang, Jiang Botao, and Sun Xiang. Zhang Shinji was a cleric too. Their class composition would be superior to Samsara's too. Li Xuan was basically saying that under these circumstances, one dark boundary was enough to take control of the battle. The two on the field were Qiao Yivan and Wenyi, who weren't as experienced or as skillful as Li Xuan and Zhang Shinji. Just relying on the two of them as support, Yi Zhu might not be able to hold off the three from Samsara. This was why Qiao Yivan didn't hold back and try to be as efficient as possible. He quickly placed down one ghost boundary after another to ensure that Sun Xiang and Jiang Botao would be completely imprisoned. He wasn't looking to control the battle for a long period of time, but rather for a quick burst. Was this because he was lacking confidence? Of course not. Even the number one phantom demon, Li Xuan, couldn't guarantee that he could do it with just one dark boundary. He even need to add in Zhang Shinji to it. This wasn't a lack of confidence. It was a careful consideration of the situation, a decision based on a clear recognition of his own limits. While everyone was still in discussion, the densely layered ghost boundaries suddenly burst open. The ghost souls danced about, creating foul wind and bloody rain, stealing away empty waves and one autumn leaf's life. After Qiao Yivan placed down the fifth ghost boundary, he had 1 inch at activate Ghost Feast right before his first dark boundary disappeared. Nervous? Not at all. The placement of the fifth ghost boundary and the perfect Ghost Feast was the biggest proof. Anyone who thought that he had been placing down ghost boundaries out of panic was completely wrong. The pro players couldn't help but applaud Qiao Yifan's performance. His play wasn't perfect. Perfect would be slowly placing down ghost boundaries at the right time to take complete control of the battle until the battle was over. But it was the pinnacle of what was possible given the circumstances. In this situation, he had made the best possible decision and executed it brilliantly. It wasn't possible to have done it any better. Beautiful. Very beautiful. His outstanding situational awareness allowed him to clearly examine the problem from an overall perspective. He had taken into consideration that he and Wenyi were relatively weak. He had also taken into consideration that Yi Zhu was exhausted after a long battle against 3 of Samsara's players. Then, he made his decision based on all of these factors, a decision that was making everyone gasp in amazement. The pro players exclaimed in admiration. At the same time, they couldn't help but glance at Team Tiny Herb. They had let go of such an incredible player. They must be regretting it, right? Especially since Tiny Herb had a Ghost Blade player. Zhou Yebai. Tiny Herb's Ghost Blade player was also a phantom demon. Right now, he was already regretting coming to watch this match. Everyone else was staring at him, their gazes cutting into him like a dagger. Qiao Yivan used to be a nobody in their team, and now, he had actually grown to such an extent. He just had to change classes to a Ghost Blade and choose to be a phantom demon too. Everyone was constantly glancing at him, openly showing pity that Tiny Herb had let go of Qiao Yivan and treated him as the real nobody in Tiny Herb. Zhou Yebai felt extremely uneasy. He really didn't want to admit that he was worse than Qiao Yivan, but he also knew that if he was confident, he wouldn't be feeling uneasy. He was afraid that his teammates would also compare him to Qiao Yivan. He was afraid that they would look down on him and then cast him away, just like how they cast away Qiao Yivan before. Focus on the match. A voice suddenly interrupted Zhou Yebai's thoughts. He turned his head to look at who said it and saw the serious expression on his captain's face. Zhou Yebai relaxed, and stopped feeling afraid, because he could tell that his captain, Wang Jiexe, wasn't affected by the other pro players' views. Wang Jiexe was only unhappy with him because of how he was letting it get to his head. He wasn't here just for fun, sitting there and enjoying the lively finals match. He was here to watch the teams play and learn from them. WuxaWorldAudio.com. He had been thinking too much. Qiao Yivan was playing incredibly well, but he wasn't the best. Li Xuan was better. The only difference was that Qiao Yivan had once been a part of Tiny Herb, but who cared? What was important was that he worked hard to better himself and do what needed to be done. Competition was everywhere in the pro scene. Qiao Yivan was just one of the many competitors. He was used to this sort of competition. Why should he be afraid now? He should be working hard so that one day he would win praise from everyone else just like Qiao Yivan had done. He's really making me a bit jealous. How annoying. Zhou Yebai no longer felt nervous because of Qiao Yivan, but rather became more motivated. If even a nobody could come this far, then why couldn't he? After collecting his thoughts, he calmed down and focused on the match again. Triggering Ghost Feast also meant sacrificing the crowd control on Samsara. While the two Samsara players were being devastated by Ghost Feast, Qiao Yivan had 1-inch Ash retreat. Shadow Clone Technique. Seeing 1-inch Ash's retreat, Yishu immediately followed. Lord Grimm completed the hand seals for Shadow Clone Technique while in combat against Josekai. His real body teleported away, and he ran away together with Wenyi's little cold hands. Cloud Piercer chased after them furiously, but Lord Grimm laid the myriad manifestations umbrella on his shoulders, protecting his back, preventing any interference from his pursuer. Sharpshooters had powerful attacks, but their crowd control was rather weak. They controlled the pace of the battle through attacks. But because Lord Grimm was holding his shield up, none of his attacks were landing. In the blink of an eye, Lord Grimm and Little Cold Hand made a turn at a trash pile and disappeared from Cloud Piercer's sight. Josekai didn't stop his pursuit though. The Ghost Feast was ending, and Jiang Botao and Sun Xiang would quickly be back to normal. It was their time to regroup and counterattack. They couldn't give Happy a chance to rest. The spectating pro players thought the same. Josekai had a clear understanding of their situation. Qiao Yivan had burst them down because he wasn't confident that they could win in a prolonged fight. Samsara knew this as well. Josekai wasn't going to let his opponents leave so easily. Cloud Piercer rushed to the edge of the trash pile and jumped. Using aerial guns, he glided through the air and made the turn. Lord Grimm and Little Cold Hands were once again within his sights. Josekai didn't have Cloud Piercer jump down from the trash pile. As a sharpshooter, the tall trash pile was an advantageous position for him to shoot from. Bang 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 bang. As soon as he landed on top of a new trash pile, Cloud Piercer's dual guns began firing furiously towards Lord Grimm and Little Cold Hands. On the other end, Jiang Botao and Sun Xiang had gotten away from the Ghost Feast. Their characters rushed out with traces of the ghostly power still lingering on them. They saw Cloud Piercer shooting, pointing them in the right direction. They gnashed their teeth in anger as they hurried over. Rising Dragon soars the sky. Seeing Cloud Piercer's shooting trajectory, Sun Xiang immediately deduced where Happy's characters were located. One Autumn Leaf swung his evil annihilation and used a Rising Dragon soars the sky at that trash pile. 3v3, were not afraid. Sun Xiang and Jiang Botao were quite determined. But the viewers really wanted to tell them, 3v3. Not for much longer. Su Mucheng and Fang Rui were almost there. End chapter.